Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 6 p.m., Tuesday, March 11th, 2014. The Town Board is in session. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda for the meeting. Motion by Arnie.
I'll second.
By Kathy. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right. Approved minutes from February 11th, 2014, the previous Town Board meeting.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Motion Dan, second Bill. Any discussion, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Item 3, public comment. People wishing to address the board limited to 2 minutes for each public comment, limited to a total of 30 minutes total. Anybody wishing to speak to the board this evening? Yes, sir.
Good evening, and thanks for letting me speak. My name is Bruce Dimick. I'm running for Wood County Supervisor from District 17, which includes Ward 4 here in the town of Grand Rapids. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, NATO Land Southeast, and after completing my service in college, I spent my career in the paper industry on the technical end of things. When the port mill closed, I retired, and since then I was enjoying retirement until our community was threatened with this CAFO, in which case I'd become politically active. So I am quite active in the Protect Wood County group. We're doing everything we can to protect our community of Saratoga and your community, as well as their own community, from the Wasaki CAFO. Already in the town of Saratoga, even though nothing has actually happened on this CAFO, land values and housing values have plummeted, and just, you know, the CAFO might not affect you folks in Grand Rapids as directly as it will those of us in the town of Saratoga, but I'm sure there will be an overlap effect of decreasing land values if that happens. But that's not the only issue I'm running on. I'm quite
15 seconds.
quite concerned about local control, and our current legislature is doing everything they can to erode local control. So I guess I'm done, but thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, hi. I'm Mark Crum. I come to address the board about the Sescentennial Festival in the township of Grand Rapids. We're planning it for this summer.
In what community?
For the township of Grant.
Grant.
And we're going to be having a parade on Sunday is what I want to address. And I'd like to get the board's approval without any problems about staging up the parade route on 76th, 77th, and 78th Street and Ruby Avenue. And then we're going to have to shut down Railroad Street right by the Safeway there for an hour when the parade goes through, and Whitrock.
Okay.
And I was just wondering if I could get your blessing on it without too much ado. And
I'll turn that over to our police chief and have his department take a look at the roads and see if that's feasible for us to. That's what I would suggest.
like we do I line up the parade in Rapids. It's usually about 2 hours, 3 at the most. You know, they start staging up and then we'll be out of there. We'll be using one side of the road. I'd like to also contact all the, if it's all right, about a week before, I'll send out a letter to everybody on the streets to let them know there'll be no driveways blocked and that there's going to be vehicles and people out in front of there.
Okay. Do you have, just to ask you the one question, do you have state approval or the county approval to shut the roads down?
That's what we're working on. We're in the process yet. It's going to be coming here real shortly. It'd be the Portage County is we have to go through to shut the roads down. We're going to actually get the signs from Portage County and the roadblocks and everything.
All right. Contact our police chief and follow up with it. Anybody else wish to speak to the board?
What's that, Chris? August 8th, 9th, and 10th, the festival is.
Mr. Ron Hitt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Ron Hitt. There's several budget items on the agenda tonight, and when we developed the budget for this fiscal year, or this calendar year, I guess, we left some money laying on the table, I think, by not taking advantage of all our levy. I think I'm using the right terms here, and I don't know a lot about it, I guess, but I'm trying to learn, and as you're going through these agenda items, if you would offer some comments maybe, or pros or cons of the advantage or disadvantage of what happened when we were developing the budget and how that might fit into these budget items, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak to the board? Hearing none, I'll call the public comment period closed. Move on to the regular agenda items. First item on the agenda would be item number 4, then would reports from departments. Fire Department, Chief Don Bone.
Evening, Town Board, residents. I guess for the last month, been really busy the last couple days. We are still at our current staffing of 53 members. For the month, we had 28 calls for service. 21 of those were ambulance assists with our first responder squad. We did have 3 false alarms, predominantly to the Mid-State Technical College. They have a new fire alarm system there that is very functional. But we're working with Mid-State to try to eliminate the false calls there. I guess anytime you have a false alarm, it breeds complacency, and so we're trying to work with them to eliminate some of those calls. We had one request to set up a landing zone for the Spirit of Marshfield for a juvenile that was injured quite severely. One carbon monoxide check out in the town of Grant. We had a gas leak yesterday afternoon with the snow melt that occurred yesterday. Predominantly with the steel roofs that are being put on houses nowadays, when the snow comes off, it comes off in one big sheet and comes down, knocks off gas meters, and fire department, everybody gets called out to deal with that. So hopefully they all slid off yesterday and we won't have any more of those. But I think the gas company actually had 3 of them going at the same time, so running the same cause. So if you do have roofs of that nature, like I say, if you can take the time, build a sturdy structure over your gas meters and stuff for the winter. You know, a lot of times they'll build them out of sticks and plywood. Well, that doesn't stop the ice dam that comes off your roof. So if you have the metal roofs and stuff like that, your gas meters are below it, your electric meters and stuff like that, take the time, invest some money into a sturdy structure over that will stop that. It shears the gas lines right off. So. And like I say, sometimes there's valving on there we can shut off. Unfortunately, it usually breaks off very close to the ground, which is usually below the valving. So then it takes even more work for the gas company to get your service back into effect. So other than that, we did have 1 car fire last evening, about 10 o'clock. So other than that, we've been lucky on the actual residential house fires, and we hope to keep it that way. Our training for the month, our EMS crew is still finishing up their refresher class down at United Ambulance. We have 2 more months of refresher, and then we'll be certified for the next 2-year period with our first responders that assist with United on every ambulance call in the town. And our fire side of things, we'll be doing some training with our fit testing, our annual fit testing and stuff for our respirators, things that are required for us to wear the respirators and stay in compliance with that, and along with that, some DNR training, because it is going to get spring one of these days. So hopefully we won't have any wildfires. But I did recently attend some training seminars with the DNR. The DNR is, like every spring, very nervous. We're still in the intensive zone for the state. It's one of the most likely areas to have a major wildland fire. Similar to what we had the Big Flats fire a few years ago, and the DNR is still convinced that eventually we're going to see another fire the size of the magnitude of the Saratoga fire from back in the early 70s and stuff. So they like to prepare and go through all the steps for getting ready for that. Hopefully it never happens. But, other than that, we just had our normal business meetings and things of that nature. We are starting to make our plans for our annual Easter egg hunt, so we will be going out and soliciting some donations for the Easter egg hunt. We are planning on having it at Mid-State Tech again this year. We used to have it at the Lions Club. We moved it to the Mid-State last year due to the weather. And with the better parking scenario with the blacktop parking lots and stuff, we're trying not to flip-flop it back and forth. So if Mid-State approves us to have it there again, we're looking to have the Easter egg hunt stay there. Hopefully it'll be dry enough we don't have to do the hunt on the parking lot itself, but it's still a nice facility, plenty of parking for everybody, and usually not very muddy, so. And I believe that's about the extent of the fire side of things.
Any questions for the chief? If not, move on to the safety department report then.
Safety department hasn't had any injuries to speak of. Hopefully with the reduction of snow plowing time, we can get back together with the crew and have some more monthly meetings and stuff. Hopefully you're done plowing for the year.
Yeah, no.
No? Well, within the next couple of weeks they should be done, so. Other than that, we haven't had any injuries to report.
All right, any questions on the safety committee? And you did get some more bootstraps in for ice straps, correct?
Yeah, we got, some of them are back ordered, but we did get the traction supply, or grippers for boots and stuff, so hopefully when the ones that are back ordered come in, we'll be ready for next winter's slipping and sliding. So we did use them, the ones we had out at a training drill, and the guys were dumbfounded with how much nicer it was than slipping around, so hopefully we can eliminate some slip and fall injuries in the future.
All right, thank you very much. Chief Mal Pedersen, Police Department report.
Good evening, everybody. Police Department, for the month of February, we had 367 calls for service. That's compared to 302 during the month of February for last year. The Police Department issued 12 written warnings, 16 municipal ordinance citations, and 44 traffic citations during the month of February. I attended the Wisconsin Chiefs of Police Association, the Wisconsin Police Leadership Foundation Midwinter Training Conference down in the Dells, February 9th through the 12th. It was well attended by all municipal police executives and other associate and affiliated members. Gave me a great chance to meet some of the other law enforcement executives from throughout the state and establish some professional relationships with them. Had some really good training there. I've been through a lot of different training throughout my career, and they really had some worthwhile and very relevant training there. Met with the Police and Fire Commission on Tuesday, February 18th. What couple of the primary topics we discussed at that time was posting a job announcement to fill 3 part-time positions. We've had some resignations and people moving on, so we're down 3 part-time officers, and also for job posting to establish an eligibility list for full-time officers. One thing I want to maintain on the department is a current eligibility list. So in the unfortunate circumstance where we do lose a full-time officer, we don't have to start from scratch, and we already have an eligibility list of people who are interested in coming and working for us full-time. On Thursday, the 27th, I met with Mr. Tom Lokes, I believe he pronounces it. He's with the River Cities Community Access program, Community Connections. I taped about a 20-minute segment with him, kind of just get to know me and put out there. He hasn't gotten back to me when it's going to air, so maybe it all ended up on the cutting room floor. So, supposedly it should start airing the end of this month, and he was going to give me a heads up when it starts airing, so I'd like to say be looking for that, but I don't know. So anyway, vehicles in department are doing real well, other than the normal routine maintenance. Our new squad is in. We got a call last week that it is at the dealership. We're making arrangements to pick it up. We're trying to coordinate with Low Voltage Solutions so that when we pick it up from the dealership, ideally, we'd like to take it right to Low Voltage so they can start stripping it down and putting in the necessary equipment and electrical and lights and all that other good stuff that's got to go on it. And also would require the old squad that's going to be sold. We're going to be using some of the equipment off of that, so we need to have both vehicles there basically relatively the same time so they can strip the old one down, and then the equipment we're going to use for the new one be put in the new one. So we're trying to coordinate with that with them, and hopefully by the end of this week we should have kind of a game plan on how we're going to proceed with that. We may have to bring it here for a short time. We'll probably store it inside the garage here temporarily until Low Voltage is ready for us, so we'll have to see how we work that out. Other than that, it's pretty much status of the police department. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free, you can either stop in and talk to me in person, call me, email me, however you want to contact me, but my door's always open, and don't hesitate to come and see me if you feel the need. Thanks.
Thanks. Anybody got any questions? Just one, Mel. What color is that squad car going to be so we know what to start looking for?
Same as the other ones, so, and I don't think the body style has changed much, so it'll have the same graphics and same color and probably look pretty much just like all of them. So.
Yeah, thank you. All right, item 5 is the approval to list police department squad car and laptop on Wisconsin Surplus Auction website for sale as replacements are purchased and put into service. This is something we've done in the past, is put it on the surplus site, let it go. There's very little fees to us,
There's no fees to us.
like no fees to us.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Bill's motion, second to Kathy, to go ahead and list the stuff on the surplus auction site. Any further discussion?
Yes.
What question?
Yes, please. Is this an ongoing approval, or is this something that the items will be given to us as far as to let us know what's going in and what's coming out?
Well, at this time, I guess the best way to say is it's all related to the old squad car primarily. Anything that we're not using onto the new squad car
Right.
is what you're looking to put on for sale.
That's correct.
That's not usable on any of our other things.
And it's also the old laptops that are no longer support the new Trax 10. It's the old laptops that are being replaced by the new ones, so.
Okay. Will we be able to have a list of the board members just to keep informed? Can we have a
Just
list
the
of
squad and the laptop, right?
Right now, it's just the squad and the 4 laptops.
Okay.
And Judy, I thought you had your hand up over there too.
Okay, in this motion to approve it, I guess what I need to know is, do you want to do it in the same manner that we've done it before? Which is, it goes out on the website, it is usually like 2 weeks that it's out there for bids. The bidding ends the morning of our meeting. They notify me that day what the final bid is. On our agenda, we have approval or disapproval accepting the bid. We can either set a minimum amount and then take whatever the bid is, or we can do it this way where the board has the right to reject. If the most you get is, $200 and you guys want to reject the bid totally. So, if that's the way I guess I need to know how you want to do this.
I think the right of rejection.
Yeah, that's
And on
preferred
the
way.
board meeting that night, and then I notify them the next morning whether you guys accepted it or not.
Mm-hmm,
Okay?
okay.
Can those laptops be used by
Mm-hmm. They're hard tops, aren't they?
They're a tough
They're
book.
the
Tough books.
Panasonic Tough
Do you
Books.
use any, Don?
They're 6 to 8 years old.
They're slow motion laptops.
I talked with John Gathers, and he said they're so old, he said they're It'd be like buying a 32 Studebaker,
Okay.
if they made one that way.
I'll be worse off.
All right, any other things on that? Did we vote? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, any opposed? Thank you. Item 7 would be approval of the fire chief.
6.
6? Why did I
It
skip
looks
one?
almost like them.
Okay, yeah, the same, almost start. Approval to list miscellaneous fire department equipment on the same Wisconsin surplus auction website, and to also sell unusable air packs and tanks to a company that refurbishes them. Don, do we have an offer from them as to what they're willing to pay for those?
For the air tanks?
Yep.
Yeah, actually, I just got it this afternoon. For the old SCBA's, and there's 35 bottles that are still usable to somebody, the low pressure ones. We're looking at about $4,805. But with that, after we saw that kind of a number, which we were anticipating at less than half of that, we got looking around, and there, you know, we have other things, we always had extra valving and stuff for the air tanks that we've accumulated over the years and stuff. And, you know, even though they're only $10 a piece is what they're paying for them, I'm gonna talk to them and see if we can sell them that stuff. We had, I don't know if you remember, we had to replace the heads-up displays on our face pieces. We've got 47 of those that there's some value to them, but I didn't include that in when I sent the stuff in, so I'm gonna get prices on that stuff to, you know, if they have a market for this stuff, it's still gonna be probably a better sell to somebody that's gonna have somewhat of a market for it than just putting it out on the surplus site that, you know, typically the fire air pack stuff that sells on there sells for little or nothing. This is a company that nationwide that refurbishes stuff, and a lot of it goes overseas or wherever, but they have a market for it somewhere.
It's recycled.
4,800 approximate.
That'd be the minimum. That was for the 15 air packs and the 35 bottles. Basically, we have to box this stuff up, put it on a pallet, ship wrap or shrink wrap it, and they have a carrier come and pick it up. So there's no shipping cost to us. It's just the packaging of it, I guess, per se.
Thoughts for board members?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, I don't think we're gonna get any more for it. And it does need to get cleaned up.
And we did have some other loose stuff. We had some 3-inch suction hoses and odd stuff like that I wanted to just sell on the surplus site that, you know, we had some old electric box fans that we haven't used on a fire since we got our positive pressure fans 15 years ago, but they just sit in the cabinets and stuff. So there's just some odd fire equipment that we just need to make some room in the trucks, so.
Bill?
So there's two different motions here, correct? One to
You
sell
could
something.
do that, or you could incorporate the motion specific to the items that he's wanting to sell and to also list the remaining on the website. You can do it both way, either way, Bill.
Oh, I'm not gonna do it.
I'll make a motion to approve the list, to approve a listing of the miscellaneous fire department equipment on Wisconsin surplus auction website, and also to sell the unusable air packs and tanks to the company that refurbishes them. And if you need that motion to be more specific, I would, in my motion, approve the fire chief and his officers making the decision on the miscellaneous fire department equipment. It doesn't sound like it's anything large, like a vehicle or anything like that. so.
It's we replaced a dump tank. We bought 2 new dump tanks last year. We got the one that is still there. Instead of leaving this stuff lay in the cold storage building and clutter that up, we want to get rid of it. So,
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made in second. Discussion now? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, any opposed? Motion is carried. So now we're on that 7 that I wanted to go to, huh? Approve fire chief and 1 firefighter to attend conference in Indianapolis, Indiana in April to research the possible purchase of a new ladder truck, basically to look at the various manufacturers. Don, do you want to enlighten the board a little more?
Yeah, I guess the Public Safety Committee authorized us to start the process of looking into replacing a ladder truck. I met with 2 vendors, one out of the Appleton area, one out of Minnesota. Contacted a couple other ones, and I guess the FDIC is the National Fire Trade Show. And I guess both vendors had indicated that if you're going to do research and figure out what type of trucks are available, which vendors are out there, the FDIC, you have every manufacturer in the country is gonna be there with their stuff sitting in the same lot to look at and get ideas of who all's out there and what they have to offer. They suggested coming down. It's, you know, I guess it's a fire department trade show is what it is. It's every aspect of everything that's fire related from, you know, I don't think they sell fire, but that's about all they are selling.
Questions for him?
And I guess the firefighter I want to take with me is Jim Elfred. He's my main pump operator of our aerial truck, has been for, well, I think you got the same 30 years on I do, and probably the most knowledgeable pump operator we have, and the most likely to objectively look at the pros and cons of everything you can look at on the trucks.
That was
And-
my question.
Yeah, and it might be, you know, this might be, you know, we don't know when it's gonna, this is the next truck that is slated to be replaced, always has been in our process, and
Did you say this was a national show then?
yeah, it's like the construction, or ConExpo that the construction companies have. This is the main, it's the FDIC, it's the main fire expo of the nation, so, like I say, everything that is sold in the realm of fire and ambulance stuff is at this show, so.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Well, just a quick comment. We did, as far as public safety, we did, ask Don to start this process. I mean, it's nothing that's gonna take 6 months or even a year. It is a long process, and we are still in the information gathering stage, so for those who think it's gonna happen real soon, no, this takes, a year, 2 years possibly, to get this thing put together, so. I would make a motion that, to Don and, I don't know, one other firefighter, Jim, to go to this conference and do some research, come back, let us know for a cost of $701.
Motion Dan, second by
I'll
Arnie?
second.
Kathy? Any further discussion?
I see you didn't put mileage down on this, and his motion was to
Use it.
reflect the 701?
Yeah, we use a town vehicle, so no
Well,
mileage.
those are estimates. I mean,
Okay.
any of these training budgets are never right on the dollar
Right.
for any of us.
But his motion indicated $701,
Yeah.
so I didn't know if,
Do you wanna revise that
Well,
too?
we'll take, to go
Estimate
down,
of?
estimate of,
okay.
or to go down there for 3 nights, and cover them, cost of the meals for.
All right, motion been made and seconded, all in favor, say
I
aye.
have
Oh, I asked it, sorry, I didn't hear you.
So by approving this motion, we're actually authorizing the safety committee's commitment to buy a new ladder truck.
No.
No, not at all.
And to clarify that, Bill, the Public Safety Committee did not commit to buying an aerial truck. The Public Safety Committee heard discussions from the fire chief and of the need to consider whether the aerial truck is going to be replaced and at what point in time. So this motion is just to commit to allowing the fire chief and one other firefighter to attend an out-of-state conference and gather additional information.
Continue.
Go ahead.
What do we get from the town of Grant and the town of Saratoga? How much do we get a year from them? Roughly.
Approximately 150,000.
$150,000. $150,000, and we have a 10-year contract with them. I think if there was a serious effort to do something like this, we should put half of that money away just for replacing equipment, but we don't do that. You know, and this wasn't brought up at the budget time, that we were looking at an aerial truck. As far as I'm concerned, we was looking at fixing an aerial truck.
Yep.
Or repairing it. So obviously, that's out of this, out of the question here.
No,
The repairing to the aerial truck was looked at, and the estimate was to repair it was $70,000. And the decision was prudent not to spend $70,000 on a piece of equipment that is worth about $35,000 on the open market.
Like a resident said in the beginning, we have several budget items here, and you know, why wasn't this considered, and why didn't we go to the maximum of what we could? And I say the same thing. Now we're coming back later on saying, well, we can always borrow the money for this. I mean, we got an item down the road later on that, on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. The agenda item has nothing to do about making a decision today about purchasing or not, and/or how we would purchase. The item, the agenda item is whether or not to approve the attendance at a conference, which is a budgeted, it's part of your training budget. Is that correct?
And I disagree with your point of order, but am I out of order?
You can speak if you want again.
I don't agree that this is out of order, because it's to look at the aerial truck. It's to look at an aerial truck that should have been on the agenda for the budget, and it was not. And I'm voting no against this.
My only comment back to you, Bill, is that it would not, it's not on a budget because it's not a decision yet to buy a budget. It may not be on the 2014 budget, it may not be on the 2015, it may be 2016. So there's no reason for it to be on the budget now, because there's been no decision that it's time or a cost to purchase a replacement for it. All right, any further discussion?
Fire chief.
Dan and then Chief?
Just one other comment on that, you know, this is a research gathering mission, I guess, would you say, together. You know, that whole ladder truck issue, we still didn't completely eliminate fixing it, you know, or replacing it. You know, they may find that there's another piece of equipment or whatever that would much rather fulfill the needs of the department. But we need to look at all different, investigate all the avenues, and this is just one part of it. You know, this is a major purchase for this town. And if it's just due diligence to look at every possible avenue. And I think just by attending this is to do that.
Chief?
I guess the typical time frame that they're telling us is no less than 6 to 9 months in design of a vehicle, 9 months or longer from the placement of an order to delivery of a vehicle. You know, like you say, there's options out there. You know, this vehicle might not see the town for 3 to 4 years, which would be at the end of the cycle of what we thought the Band-Aid at 70,000 would hold that truck over on. And, you know, like I said, we might find out that there are other options out there. There's, you know, and part of this is finding out accurate numbers, so we're not throwing out erroneous numbers to make this look bad just by picking a number out of the sky. Unless you know what a truck actually costs, you're just picking numbers out of the sky. And we know what the cost of replacing the repair is worth, an estimate of it, and, you know, like I said, this is, you're not gonna see this truck in a year, I'll guarantee you that.
All right.
Chairman, I have another question. So at this conference, you said that you would be able to see what kind of vendors are out there. Is this also a place that you would be able to see if there's any used, or are you just, is this just specifically new?
Well, I mean, they obviously sell, but I mean, every vendor has options of, you know, getting a hold of, you know, they might have vehicles coming back off of leases. You know, some departments, the bigger cities, are running these trucks for 10 years. When the maintenance costs start creeping up on them, they dump them, they turn them back. You know, there's all different ways of financing these trucks. Some of them are on leases and they come back. Some of them are on, you know, just a 10-year purchase and they get rid of them in 10 years. Obviously bigger communities than ours, but there's other communities that this truck would be used every single day. Obviously, that's gonna be wore out in 10 years. You know, Madison, Milwaukee fire departments are lucky if they can get 10 years out of a truck. You know, so like I said, this truck was slated to be replaced. Its life expectancy, it's a 95. You know, according to standards, it should be already taken out of active service. It should be put into a reserve role. After 19 years, 20th year, it should be mandatorily taken out of service. We're never gonna make that. You know.
Will you, when you
So-
go there, will you be looking at and just keeping your options open to see, you know, to report back?
Oh,
as far as
absolutely.
new and used?
There's numerous types of aerial devices. There's some that are just ladders, there's some that are just, there's some that are telescoping boom ladders similar to what we have. There's a lot of different options out there. There's every shape and size of device that can accomplish what this truck does for us that, and like you said, the local vendors, I called the closest dealer, I haven't even heard a response back from them. It's a company that typically sells to the East Coast and the West Coast. The Midwest market, they don't have a very good stronghold, and typically it's because of their price point on the trucks. There's a lot of other vendors out there that you can, over the course of the 2 days of the show, you're gonna talk to every vendor compared to trying to schedule and have them come in and like I said, we could talk to every aerial dealer in the nation in the course of 2 days, compared to, dragging it out over, some of these dealers might not even come up to central Wisconsin to try to sell you a truck, but they might be a good fit for us, so.
Anything else? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to send them to the training request? A motion to approve as presented. Please vote in favor of the motion or against. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
And Bill's opposed. Thank you, Bill. Well, thank you, board members. Okay, 8. All right, Mel asked to visit with us a little bit pertaining to the expectations of the police department to remain within its town budget constraints, and I think primarily, Mel, is only thing that looks to be anything that's tipping us a little bit is a part-time, or the full-time overtime, is what it is.
Right, that's.
Go ahead.
Just a couple things, well, thanks for these couple minutes, I'll try to keep it short. This is not a presentation on making an argument for increasing the staff of the Grand Rapids Police Department, so let's get that off the table right away. I think there was some public perception out there that's what this is gonna be, and it's not. So what I came to the board for was just kind of, I haven't had a chance to sit down with all of you as a group to kind of lay out your expectations of me, of the departments that I've been here. I've talked to most of you individually and got some feedback, got some input, but I haven't talked to you as a group. Since I've been here, it's 2 months now, and I've been working under the assumption that the Grand Rapids Police Department is a 24/7 department. Now, primarily, we've been working that since I've been here, with a couple of exceptions. We haven't had coverage for short periods of time. I think one time I can recall it was about a 4-hour period where we didn't have coverage, and of course, the County Sheriff's Department fills in. And then just last week, we had about a 6-hour period where we didn't have Grand Rapids coverage, but again, Wood County provided the coverage. As a result of that scheduling and the lack of part-time people, that's why the Police and Fire Commission saw it prudent for us to hire additional part-timers. We've incurred some overtime with our full-time officers, okay? I must say, they've all stepped up when asked, and they've come in and filled those needs so that we had coverage when, for various reasons. Some of the overtime was what I would like to term uncontrollable. When an officer picks up a major case or a complaint at the end of a shift that carries them through the next shift, and it's not prudent for the oncoming officer to pick up, just let the offgoing officer go home and him pick it up, for various reasons that I, won't get into, but it's been necessary on those occasions for overtime for the officer to stay over maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to see whatever major incident or major case he's working on to do that. So some of that overtime isn't really controllable. What is controllable is if the town board and the residents here of Grand Rapids, what is controllable is the maintaining that 24/7 coverage. And that's what I'm looking for guidance in. Do you want to maintain that 24/7 coverage and possibly incur additional overtime? I can do that if what we have budgeted for the full-time officers, which we have a significant portion already used up this year, specifically to cover the 24/7 coverage. The result of that would be open periods where we wouldn't have coverage and it'd have to be covered by Wood County. That's the guidance, that's kind of the direction I'm looking for here. What direction do we want to go as far as maintaining as best we can full coverage? Now, we anticipate when we get these additional part-timers up and running, that a lot of that will be absorbed by the part-timers. Again, we're going to have to look at our part-timers, when can they cover shifts? The personnel we have part-time right now, all of them have full-time jobs, so it's hard for them to cover full-time shift. Mostly it's either night or weekends. Well, where we're running into coverage is during the day, during the week. Obviously, when I'm up to full speed, I'll be able to cover some of that. But again, that's going to be, we're talking a couple months down the line yet before we get to that point. So my question to everyone here is, how do you want me to proceed? Do you want me to continue scheduling overtime for the full-time officers to cover as many shifts as we can, or do I let them slide?
I think first and foremost, it's probably, in my opinion, Mel, and thank you for bringing this point to us again, is that we need to get into budget constraints as best as we can. I do understand that we get calls where we have to actually sit on an individuals because of them being under hospital restraints for one reason or another, and we don't have a lot of choices in those cases. And we're going to have those issues come up from time to time. It's thankfully that they don't happen every day, but we do have those. But I think we need, as we've told everybody in the past that's been with it, is your departments need to become in budget wherever you can. And sometimes it may need to be that some shifts may have to stay uncovered, and hopefully it's the hours that nobody does any crime, right? So, other board members' thoughts?
I agree. I think, how many, typically on a typical week, about how many hours would you guesstimate that are covered by the county? I mean, again, by saying, we still have coverage, the county is just
Right.
picking up.
Right.
So the citizens.
Well, I can think of two instances and that I can think of in just last Friday. We had a 6-hour portion that was not covered, and it was 6 a.m. till noon. And then prior to that, I believe it was early on, I think it was sometime last month in February, where we had like a 4-hour shift or 4-hour block of time that was not covered. But that was early in the morning. That was like from 2 a.m. to like 6 a.m. Those are the only two instances that I can think of where we didn't have coverage since I've been here. Now, when I first got here, when I wasn't still trying to get my feet on the ground. There may have been some times that I wasn't aware of it, but those are the only 2 times that I can, that I recall where we didn't have coverage. So you're talking 10 hours over the last 2 months.
And I agree with
Yeah.
Chairman.
Eddie?
Thanks for bringing this to our attention, by the way, too. But I'm thinking, utilizing Wood County in those circumstances would suffice. It's not like they're 30 miles away, being that they're, less than 6 miles away. They've always responded quite well for us.
And I'm sure they would. I just wanted to make you aware of
Sure.
it, that instead of blue showing up at your door when you call, you got brown showing up.
Right.
Where's Grand Rapids at, What I did with the shift on Friday is I called dispatch the night before and gave them a heads up and said, hey, Grand Rapids, we're not gonna have coverage from 6 a.m. to noon on Friday morning. Just wanted to give you a heads up. They appreciated that. I don't know, under the past administration, how that relationship was, depending on the guidance I get today. Obviously, I'm gonna wanna sit down and talk with the sheriff and get his input and see what type of conflicts that may present for them. But I wanted to get your input before I go to the sheriff and say, hey, this is what we could be running into, because if the guidance is to stay within the overtime budget for full-time officers, between now until we get our part-timers hired and up to speed, until I get fully up to speed, you could see significant periods where we won't have coverage. I guess that's the point I'm getting to.
Bill?
And when I say getting coverage by Grand Rapids Police Department,
Yeah,
not,
we understand, yes.
by Wood County.
I think in 2012, the residents spoke loud and clear, 3-1, that they did not want 24-hour coverage. I mean, it
Not
was
one
put,
24 coverage.
right, it was put to a referendum, and,
Well, obviously, I wasn't here in 2012, so,
well, it's,
okay.
Kathy? Anything?
I too want to thank you for bringing this to our attention. I think that staying as close to 24/7 as you can is important, but when it's within the budget. And that when we go through the budget process, planned absences that have caused us, like a vacation or a sick time, that have caused us to maybe call in full-time officers because we don't have the part-time officers. I think that's what our intent of budgeting for our part-time officers is. And so you're heading down the right path by working with the Police and Fire Commission on finding the part-time officers that are capable and able to fill those shifts. And if they can't fill a 12-hour shift, because we're on 12 hours, but they can fill a 6 or an 8, take advantage of that 6 or 8, and
Well,
then.
we do
and then
that.
the
We'll
rest.
take whatever they can give us, is
Okay.
basically what we give them. If they come back and say, okay, we have this 12-hour shift open on this day, okay? They'll come back and say, well, I can't give you a full 12, but I can give you 6, or I can give you 8. We'll take what you can give us.
Good.
And then sometimes, depending on how much they can give us, like if they can give us 8, then we might, then the full-time officers filling in to maybe cover, it's easier for them then to cover a shorter period of time than it would be a full 12-hour shift. Just to give you some information that is out there, there's other municipalities around here that they have it in their contract where if they're, and it's small departments like ours, they actually have to give any overtime, they have to offer it to their full-time officers first by union contract, okay? Then if none of the full-time officers want it for overtime, then they farm it out to the part-timers, ask them if they can fill the shift. We're just the opposite here. We go to our part-timers first and ask them, can you fill these shifts? And if they come back and say, if we get a negative response from all of them, then is when we go to our full-time officers and try to get, cover as much of those shifts as we can.
Okay, anything else?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, discussion on having fire station and municipal building hardwired together to eliminate one of the internet bills and to eliminate computer problems due to our wireless connection to the fire department not working. The reason for this is on here is we've had issues again with the wireless service going to the other side. It's another $1,000 piece of equipment that would need to be purchased. It's $500 or so for the labor to do this. We looked into, I believe it was Solaris,
Last year was Solaris,
last year,
yes.
that would wire the buildings together for approximately, the number to be $2,200. At that point in time, then we would also eliminate one of the internet feeds to it because we'd be running internet to there from here rather than having two internets at whatever number of dollars is. So it really makes sense for us now because we have a failure again to take the next step, and that is to underground bore it, cross to put the fiber optics in, and then hook up to another service, which either could be Solaris or Charter for that matter. We don't have firm prices, but I think that's the content of this talking about is you get your feeling on it, and then we'll go out and see firm pricing from the two main vendors, which would be.
All this was brought before the safety committee? Or, I mean, how did we know so much about it?
How do I know so much about it?
No, not
Because
you.
I talked to our tech guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the request.
So are we just approving it to,
To research?
To hardwire.
well,
They're hardwired, but we'll get prices from both vendors and find out which one's the better deal for the town. Which would be,
And some of a big reason behind it is our servers are here. And the backup, that backs up the servers, it backs up our email, all the stuff which is required by law to be saved and backed up are in the servers here. Don's stuff, if that wireless isn't working, nothing is being backed up. He can't print to the copier because the wireless doesn't do it. They've got a temporary fix in right now, which I saw a good 4 minutes to bring up one spreadsheet for him to work on. And yes, if we could, right now we're paying $59, I believe, for internet over there, and $89 here. We'd be able to eliminate a $60 a month charge, more than likely. We researched this last year when we discussed the television part, is where a lot of this information is coming from right now, Bill. The television part was told no, it was dropped. But now, like I said, the wireless itself is shot. And we've had probably $500 worth of labor costs already this year up to this point because his stuff quits working. And you don't function without your computers.
So my motion lost for a lack of a second.
No, I was just ready to, I just wanted you to clarify your motion and then I'm ready to second. Is your motion to have this hardwired with the cheapest vendor? Or is your motion to go out and get the costs?
No, the most
For that.
reasonable. Not the cheapest.
do we want to get the bids and bring them back next month? You know, is that?
I don't think that's necessary, because.
I think we just need to get it done.
Get it done.
All right, the
second.
motion been
In
by
2
Bill,
years.
second by Kathy to proceed and use the most economical vendor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that was item 9. We'll move to item 10, recommendation from Personnel Committee regarding municipal building cleaning hours. Kathy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the Personnel Committee meeting a week or two ago, we discussed the cleaning of the municipal building. We had the hours vacated when we had the casual fire department position helping with that. Then we had those hours being worked on with one of our public crew persons who has since retired. So the Personnel Committee discussed how to go about filling those hours. And in the meantime, I received an email from the office staff that there may be interest by them to pick up those 2 hours a week and clean the municipal building. So it was a consensus by the Personnel Committee to send them both an email, ask them if they're interested, and if they are, then we would bring the recommendation back to the board, and the board could make the decision on approving both or one. And I received confirmation back from Peggy that she would be interested in the hours, and I received a read receipt from Jewel indicating then that she read and acknowledged my email but did not respond. So I'm making a recommendation that we award the extra 2 or 3 hours, however many it takes to clean the municipal building, and Peggy can keep the Public Buildings Committee appraised of how that's working.
I have a,
Your motion, did you
That's a
motion?
motion, yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And second by Patty?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This would not take her into overtime?
Correct, that's
Because
correct.
it would be a maximum of 4 hours per pay period, which would keep her under the,
Right.
okay.
And we would figure it'd be 2 hours a week, which is even less than,
Okay.
the amount. But if the chairman or the Public Buildings Committee were to decide that, it's need to clean the windows or whatever we would have asked the cleaning person to do in the past, that there could be a time when there might be some extra hours. But typically, we figure 2 hours a week.
No?
Does this have to go on our personnel? Being that they are union, do we have to consult with the union at all, or can you bargain this way? Can you do that?
No, we don't need to.
So at Act 10, I mean, before Act 10, you wouldn't have to.
Exactly, Bill. That's why I'm saying we don't have to, no.
We
No,
check with-
we're staying with under the overtime hours, and we're fine. It's just like when we brought the road crew back up to full-time, we didn't consult the union to do that. We just brought it back to full-time hours. Right?
Yep.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, any opposed? All right, so I'm going to give you some information, discussion on the purchase of a 2012 Volvo grader to replace current equipment. Now, the reason you're seeing this on there now, and why wasn't it at the budget, is at the budget time, we did not fully know the condition of our current 1991 Champion grader. That's roughly 23 years old. It has started to deteriorate substantially this year. Loss of power, using engine oil, and etc. A lot of wear out in pins, shafts, cab, everything is just about to a point where it's going to fail us. Knowing that plowing is one of the public's highest concerns, and knowing that a grader can scrape the roads like we're doing now to try to get all the slush out of it, it's the committee from Public Works thought process to go out and get a different grader. Now, we didn't choose to go look for a new grader because of the additional cost there would be in a new one based upon the new EPA required emissions for that engine. A 2012 grader was located and is currently in operation in the city of Green Bay on a lease. It is coming back to the dealership in April. It has a grand total of 500 to 500 and maybe less than 600 hours on it likely by the end of the cycle. It's coming back to us. They made us a very reasonable offer to purchase it. The crew did go over there and inspect it. Pictures are here, Bill. If you didn't get a chance to see them, you were not at the Public Works Committee meeting like you normally are, so you didn't get to inspect the equipment. So my thought process is is that we need to replace it. I have, in case everybody wants to know, I have signed a letter to purchase that is only contingent, is that the town board approves it at this meeting. If the town board does not approve at this meeting, the offer dies. I do know from talking to the vendor yesterday that they have other municipalities that are after the same grader, but it is basically on hold for us now. So the decision would need to be made if we're going to purchase the grader at this particular stage, would need to be done for this particular piece of equipment, that would need to be done tonight. Now, financing, several different ways, and we would talk about that later, but it could be bought under this year's budget and fully paid for under this year's budget if we chose to do so. Or we could loan, which would be a loan, would be presented on next year's budget. This year, we have a $240,000 loan that's going to be paid off in October. That's the only loan that we have out there, correct, Chris?
We have one loan right now, that is correct.
Okay, starting the first part of next year in April, we have a roughly $140,000 payment on our Town Line Road project. So that means there's $100,000 less in loans that would be that would not be used last year. So if we were to take 50,000 of that and take this grader over 5 years, we would still be at less than our loan rate from the preceding year. This town has the lowest loan rates as far as dollars and cents that any municipality our size has, because we can typically stage our purchases so that we don't get spikes and decreases in our town tax rate. Our town tax rate in the last 10 years has only gone up around 18 to 20 cents total in the last 10 years, and we worked very hard, and that's why we didn't use all of last year's budget, Mr. Head, was because I made the commitment to everybody that we would hold the taxes in the town, which we did. We did not go all the way up to the $3.01 because I, with a couple of other board members, chose not to do that. So there's my answers as to what's going on. I'm open for questions first.
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman. The only question I had, you answered, and that was I had spoke with an individual from the city and talked to him about the grader and equipment. And the suggestion that I received back was to look for a leased grader, so it was interesting that you had said that was what you found.
Bill?
You know, the 5 years I've been on the board, a new grader has always been asked for. When it was in 1991, I wondered how long it would last, and I think the crew has brought it up at budget time just about every time, but we considered it no, or let's wait and see how long it is. So I would like to make a motion to go ahead and purchase the grader.
Okay. Motion by Bill, second by Dan. Any further discussion? I hope I explained that well enough to everybody.
Yeah, and I'd like to commend the crew, Rick and Arnie too, for going out and looking. There wasn't, you know, also, Mike, also, there isn't a lot of these, specifically what they're looking for out there. You know, what was it,
No.
you know, so to find this one was not, you know, was very unexpected at the time, and nice job.
All right, further discussion?
And I also want to comment too, this grader that they're looking at is extremely more safer than the one that they're utilizing right now as far as hooking up the plows and whatnot. I was happy to see that it has a lot more safety features on it. It's got a backup camera, things like that that are important for safety, and just to, you know, that it's so much more usable than the same
And it still is
one.
under warranty for about
Yeah.
another 1,000 hours or better.
So I was impressed with the find also.
Bill?
Am I correct in saying the price is $188,000 or something like that? I saw?
Okay.
216.
And at this time, if it comes into us in April, it would be $184,620.
And the old.
That's giving us $25,000 for the old grader. I did search other sites just to see what old graders like ours were going. It was 17 to 20,000 is what they were getting for these old graders, so I think we better let him have it.
Yeah, but then you've got other things on here, right?
Well, that's what,
That's
Those
the-
are warranty things, but the.
That's
no,
the
the
grader
other-
alone?
184,620 is what I signed the contingent offer to purchase then, and that included
Okay.
putting on some stuff that we wanted, like fenders, Mike, correct?
Okay.
The thing that you said that you signed, did you also sign that the grader would be traded in on it?
Yeah,
Oh, you did?
but
Oh,
we can redo this, but the thing I tried to research to see what graders we're gonna go for, and I really believe this is an $18,000 to $20,000 grader.
I mean, I would like to see, there's small municipalities, small townships that, I came from a very small township, that, I think they would pay that or more, but
That's
that's
one-
just my thoughts.
might get into the financing portion.
That's our next item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
All right, anybody else thinking that way, or is everybody comfortable letting it go as is?
Well, I think that's been the finance part of it, like Dan said, that we probably discussed that there.
All right, all in favor of the motion to go and purchase the 2012 Volvo grader for airing equipment, signify by saying aye.
Okay.
I'm an aye, any opposed? Thank you. And Mike thanks you.
There's pictures in there, that's why.
Mike says when he goes around the corner with the grader, he's got to grab the door. It will be opened.
That's because somebody kicked it.
All right, so what I did then is put the information out to the item, which is how to finance it. Couple options. We can do a 5-year loan. Current rate at 3%, Chris?
3%, yes.
And that, do you know offhand what those payments would be yearly? And this would be applied into next year's
Not
budget.
offhand, but I can scratch my pencil here.
Well, roughly, if it's 5 years and it's 200,000, you might say it's gonna be roughly 50,000 a year,
Okay.
okay? So, we can do that. The other option is, the only thing that we, if you want it, the only issue that we will have by purchasing this grader, if we don't use it from current funds, is that, Bill, we will have to go back to the public for a highway cap increase. Now, we can do this from current funding if we take some of the funding off of the roads that we were gonna do this year. Purchase it outright from the road funds, or we go to the public and ask to raise the cap, although just to raise the cap is just raising the cap. The actual purchases are gonna go into next year's budget and then work down from that 240 that we already have on loan, so it isn't a negative to raise that cap. So the decision, I guess, is which way the board feels we wanna do. That's why I'm giving you the couple of options to talk about.
If you do the loan, you are going to have to get the highway expenditure cap approval at our April annual meeting in order to do it.
So if we, because we've approved the purchase, it sounds to me like it's gonna need to come from our budgeted expense if at the April meeting, the cap is not increased.
That would be the
And the
alternative.
cap would be increased only to cover the loan payment for going out for the loan. Is that correct?
Okay.
Right.
For the one purchase.
Okay, if you wanted to do the loan, if you did a 5-year loan and you still wanted to do road construction, the cap would have to be raised and approved by the town residents at our annual meeting in April. If you said, well, let's do the loan and just see what happens, at the annual meeting. If it would get turned down at the annual meeting to raise the highway expenditures, if you've taken out your loan already and it doesn't get approved, you cannot do your highway construction. Because that would put you over the highway expenditure cap.
We'd have to
So
hold
you're
back
gonna
on it.
have to not do, one way or another, if this is purchased, if the annual meeting does not approve the increase to the highway expenditures, you will not be doing road construction.
You'd have to pull those funds.
You're gonna have to
Pull
pull those
funds
funds from your road
roads.
construction.
You'd still have some road construction, mind you.
Right,
It's
and
not
we would
that-
have
it's not-
more.
We'd have about 40,000, that's paying Town Line Road yet this year, that came in after the first of the year. So you're down to 260,000 in your road construction budget.
So that's 50,000 roughly.
And then you take another 200,000, 180,000 off of there
And we're doing two
For the
culverts
grader.
this year,
for the
Rick.
grader.
Rick, those two
Yes.
culverts are gonna cost us, what, 20 between the two? 25?
I'd safely say 25, yes.
So I mean, that would put that down pretty low, but I guess I'm confident that I can explain this to people in,
We're-
go ahead, Bill.
When do we, our money back from Town Line Road, when does that?
It's here.
It came
It's
back,
in the bank.
it's in the bank.
That's at
Yeah,
311,000.
but that was
That was
budgeted for
budgeted.
coming, that was budgeted for coming back into us.
Yeah.
But weren't they going to return more than that 311? Wasn't there a thought that it wasn't as much?
These are final numbers.
Oh, these were the final numbers?
The 311 is what we got from the
Okay.
state.
Okay.
Saratoga has
paid
held back a little
35,000.
bit of payment.
Oh, yes.
But we've paid our share already to them. They're holding our
Right.
piece to pay back because of some defects in the
The
material.
final numbers came in. And we've.
And believe it or not, the state paid us very quickly. We didn't expect it to be,
So if the loan payment is, say approximately 50,000, just for math. So if we have 260,000 in our road construction budget, if we bought this outright for 200,000, then we have 60,000 for road construction work and that's it,
Correct.
which has to include the two culverts and whatever else we've got planned. If we do the loan for 50,000, then we still have 210,000
No.
for road construction?
No.
And why is
Highway
that?
expenditures are
Because
based
you're-
on the amount of money that you have spent.
because it's a
Because
purchase,
you
it's gotta go into that
purchased
cap.
it in this year.
So it doesn't
It-
matter what the payment is, what the
Correct.
expense is that incurs, it's the purchase.
Yes.
And you remember at the,
Okay.
at the budget meeting, they did allow for roughly a $60,000 increase in the cap.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's really, we would not be asking to raise that cap 190,000, we'd only be raising it approximately 130,000, or
But
less.
then that leaves you nothing for contingencies should something happen,
Yeah.
So it would.
without having
It'd be
another
wise to ask them.
annual
for the-
meeting.
For the full 100, and just to give you that extra 60,000 total.
That in
Okay.
case the tornado comes right through here.
Because, last year we took and we did the road drive last year. And our roads, the majority were in very good shape, but there was some that needed, some work. And we used the majority for that. I still think we need to, allocate some of those funds to.
Yeah,
Would there be a way of going half?
It could go a couple different ways, and the other thing we could do on our roads, and I guess it's probably not appropriate to talk about it here, because it's really how we're gonna finance it, I guess. I have some thoughts how we could better handle that shortage.
But yes, Dan, you could take 100,000 out of road construction and a $100,000 loan type of a situation compared to the full 5-year loan or compared to all of it out of road construction or.
What I was thinking.
So what did you say if we took it out of contingency, what would that put us into?
You still would have to have the town approval to raise the highway expenditures that amount, or you have to cut that amount out of road construction.
And what is our contingency? Roughly.
560.
Yeah, I don't remember what we ended up with when the auditors.
Just under 6, I believe, Bill.
Yes.
But I mean, even if we
From
use,
the higher
even if we use that,
over
we're
550.
we're still at the cap issue.
Yeah, I understand that, I
And,
understand.
you know, and I want to be very forthcoming to all the public knows that we, you know, we're very cognizant of the setting a cap. And we're looking to work through it, so.
So we could take it out of contingency, and we would still have to raise the cap because we spent that.
Exactly right. So,
And could we wait and like we have done with previous big equipment purchases and make that decision when the road construction decision is at the table so that we know whether we need to borrow for any portion of it, or do we have to decide that?
sometime
We're gonna
around
have to decide
April,
something before April, the third
sometime
Tuesday in
first of
April
April,
annual meeting.
sometime in the 1st of April, they're gonna ask us for payment, whether it comes from our checkbook balance right now and comes technically out of contingencies and then gets put back in there with a loan. When a loan's applied for, that's what it is.
So if we
I've
would
worked with him.
go ahead and pay for this totally, and then let's say something comes up where after we do our road crews again and take a look at that, would we be able to then borrow, we wouldn't be able to borrow the money for the road purpose if we needed additional
Not without
funds
raising the
for that?
cap.
Okay,
See, we're-
and the only time that you can do that, is that in any
And the
meeting,
meeting
or
or
could you have a
pub-
special
You
meeting?
can hold a special town
You
meeting
can
for
call,
it.
the board could call a special meeting for that purpose if they wish.
But I was looking at the easiest way not to call an extra meeting, and is we could tie it in with the April meeting that we already have scheduled, and we could do it then without calling for a special town meeting.
Because we really don't know for sure what we really want to spend for roads yet,
I think
except
we-
for 2 culverts.
I think we can figure it out, if the board wishes to meet sometime yet, we can probably figure it out.
And we need to keep in mind the significance of using debt service that is used to compute how the tax levy is calculated. If you recall how Chris
Yeah.
explained that to us. So when you go out of debt service, you want to keep in mind, you don't want to just entirely be debt-free. That makes a change as well. So I'll make a motion that we use debt service to to finance the purchase of the grader.
Okay? Motion by Kathy to seek debt service, 5-year loan,
For the entire amount.
that amount.
I would think so.
Any other, is second the motion? I'll second the motion while I say it can give you folks some time to think about it. So, motion been made and second to seek debt service to pay for it, and then obviously knowing that that's gonna require us to ask the town residents at the annual meeting to increase the levy. If they do not increase the levy, then it will have to come from other funds, which would be likely road
Using the
construction.
debt service increases the levy.
Yep, no matter what
When?
it is. You do it this year because you bought it this year,
2000, the highway expenditures,
It
not
increases
the
the highway
debt.
expenditures, not the levy.
not the levy.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't touch,
I'm like, no, I don't think so.
not this year, not this
It
year.
increases the highway expenditures, which is on the table, either way.
Right,
Right.
It's, if you
that's on
use
the
debt
table.
service and the highway expenditures gets increased, then we have that amount that we increase of the highway expenditures for road construction decisions. And towards the end of this year, if we're healthier than we thought and the budgets aren't where they're at, we can always pay that loan down faster or whenever.
That was
You
my
know,
other
versus
next
the other way around,
Yeah,
and
there's
wishing
no
you had done
penalty
it.
for that.
There's no penalty, there's just a 3-month period, and I'm reading about that now.
Okay.
That you have to do it within this certain 3-month period. You can't just do it whenever you want throughout the year. You've got to be prepared and present in written form to them that you're going to prepay it.
Oh, 3 months prior to
No,
whatever the,
no, it's
during the
in,
5 years?
during I'm
It's
just trying
like
to find
August,
it.
September, November time or something
Yeah,
like
it's a
that.
fall, there's 3 months, August, September, October, or September,
That's when
October,
you
November.
can make.
That's when you
Each
may
year.
prepay early.
Okay.
So we
And the reason for that is so that the state
They
trust
know what
fund
money
can project what funds they're gonna have coming in that they
Available
can let out
To
for
let
the
out
following
the
years.
yeah.
And by then, we're gonna know we're gonna know exactly what we spent in road construction, what we could have.
Right.
And we may be able to pull 100,000 or 125 out of there
Right.
and pay it towards that loan.
Exactly.
And then, I'm all for
Bill,
that.
one more thing?
I'm in favor of contingency, not borrowing.
All right, so we got a motion, and it's been seconded to do with debt service. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carried. All right,
Bill was the only no?
all right, then we'll move to February disbursement vouchers. Anybody see anything on there that looked that they needed to have more clarification of?
Well, I don't need clarification on it, but obviously we can thank our Public Works crew for a lot of snow and ice removal that's been going on, because that's been reflected in the vouchers these last 2 months.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Why aren't they using the graders and getting the snow off the roads?
We are, and I'll talk about that in a minute, Shirley, if you give me a second to get to the reports. Operator license applicants. We had 3 in front of us, I believe. Somebody got that, Andy?
I'll make a motion to approve the 1-year license for Teresa Beering at the store, Rebecca Lemke at Bulldogs, and Barb Silas at Bud's Corner Mart as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion Kathy, second Dan. All in favor, signify, or any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Monthly reports from departments. Public Works, I'll up-to-date you there. Road salt, we are in a big hurt locker. The county is telling us to limit salt significantly. The salt that we have was purchased at $68 a ton. If the county runs out, and they may, the new price to get incoming salt is $160 a ton. So it's pretty significant. There is a very shortage of salt supply. We are out grading, we are out scraping. We're out with a end loader behind the grader so that the end loader can take the slush out of the people's driveway so we don't leave that pile of slush in their driveway. We've been out for 2 days now, scraping as much as we can during the hours. We worked some overtime on Monday so that we could get as much done as we could. We did full shift today, and if tomorrow morning allows, we'll be out there scraping some more. Or if it is the next thaw that we get, we'll be back out there scraping as much as we can. Equipment breakdowns, minor breakdown on Rick's main truck, power steering line broke, fixed. Seemed like it was going to cause some difficulties afterwards, but they must have had some air trapped in the system because it's now, as I understand, going okay, Rick. Anything else that I didn't hear of today?
No, pothole season's coming and everything else.
Okay, any questions? Yes?
Yeah, I don't understand the road situation. I mean, it got warm a few weeks or a month ago for a couple days, and nothing was done with the slush on the roads. And then we got the ice and the rain and all that mess, and it froze everything into a solid mass of ruts. Now we had 54-degree days yesterday.
Yes.
And it was warm today. The streets are a mess, and yeah, this is the second year in a row.
And
And-
we are out. We're doing everything we can.
There's
Well,
only 2 of us.
You know, we,
People can only do so much on 93 miles a road.
where have you been grading? Because I'd like to go see where you did it.
Like, what you take-
64th looks really good.
Oh, I bet it
Whit
does.
Rock looks really
I bet it
good.
does.
48th looks good.
Well, those are main roads. I'm talking about streets.
And that's the way.
I
it
can tell you,
should be.
Shirley, they didn't come down my street yet, if it's any
Yeah.
quick consolation to you. So, you know, I understand we gotta put up with this stuff. Fortunately enough, it is melting down. It is getting thinner. If we can get it off just as quick as we
Tomorrow's gonna
can.
be 16 degrees, and we're gonna have nothing.
When
but
we got
snow.
that ice, and then we got some snows on it, we did not scrape those. Now, do you understand why? Because if you scrape the snow off of it, what are you gonna have left? The ice. We needed for it to start melting. Because when you get the heat up, the snow's melting, it takes the water out of the ice, And now, hopefully, when we scrape it now, we'll have clean roads again.
Well, the
There is a
grader-
reason for how we do this.
The grader came down 45th Street and all in that area when it was frozen,
Yeah,
and it slicked it up.
well, that's because we tried to see if we could get it to come up.
Well, you said that wasn't a good idea, so
Well,
that's why they were doing it.
we tried
Now
it,
it's slushy and warm,
Well-
and we got her, now.
but we tried, didn't we?
Well, obviously, why was the grader coming down there when it was obviously frozen? You know, now when it's warm and slushy
Because
and
he was
everything else.
working on main roads that day, we covered what we needed to cover, I told him to finish up today in some of the bigger subdivisions,
All right,
rather than park it.
anything else on Public Works? If not, we'll move to Airport Commission. William?
Airport, we had a meeting on the 6th of March. One of the main things about it is that there was a gentleman there from the town of Grand Rapids that lives near the airport. And before he bought the property, somebody had built a building, and part of that building's on airport property, and supposedly he was supposed to have gotten a letter to remove it, and he didn't, so we sent people over there. My understanding is the office was called here about it, and they didn't know anything about it. I don't know if you've heard about it.
No, I didn't hear a thing, Bill.
Anyway,
You are my ears at the Airport Commission.
no, that they had called the office here. The gentleman had called the office here. And I was just surprised that he didn't mention that. But it's being taken care of now. The building has to be tore down. That is on airport property. Otherwise, the snow removal equipment is working fine, and everything is down at the airport. Even planes, that's just not good fuel sales, so. And one thing we're going to be doing is having a meeting with Mid-State and the school, and as soon as the snow melts, getting that mess cleaned up around the airport and some planning done.
Gonna work with the Urban Forestry Division?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Any questions for the Airport Commission report? Cycling solid waste, Bill?
We had a meeting this month on that, and our Choose to Reuse program is going to be May 17th, Saturday here, and one in September. That date hasn't been taken, hasn't been announced yet because there's some conflicts with other municipalities. Who also attended it was Advanced Disposal, had attended the meeting, Dale Marth, and and I mentioned this to you, Arnie, and you have said anytime, Advanced Disposal wants to have a meeting with the full board and discuss possible contract for next year. And I don't know, Judy, you had the information on that. After we sent the letter, is a meeting out of the question?
No, we are supposed to negotiate in good faith with them, I believe is how it was worded. And we can put out for proposals at this time based on being able to know what the competitors are to negotiate in good faith with them. So we could put out proposals anytime we wanted to competitors so that we knew where we stood when they come with their proposal for next year.
And that's the letter that was sent out last April.
And they did reply to it, which meant that they were then required to live with the prices that they provided us
Right.
for the preceding year.
So now it is going to go out for proposals, right?
If that's
Not
what you.
till it comes to the board as on
Yeah,
a motion.
right, okay.
You'll need to get it on the agenda for us, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
Too bad we can't keep the one more year.
Anything else on solid waste?
No, that's it, thank you.
The only one comment, Bill, is you mentioned here, you do not mean here, you mean at the town garage,
Town
correct?
garage, right.
Because last year we had, or the year
Yeah,
before, we
I
had
know,
people
I'm
dropping
sorry,
stuff
I
off
didn't.
here
In the town of Grand Rapids at the corner
municipal
of
building.
28th and 2 Mile.
Very good. All right. Patty, on plan commission, anything? Yeah, you had a meeting, didn't you?
Yes, we had a meeting and we
approved the land use permit on 36th Street. And also we approved a dog exempt permit for a multiple dog. That was it. It was a slow meeting. I mean, a slow one.
Slow one.
Mhm.
All right, any questions for the planning commission meeting? If not, public buildings, Patty.
And then Arnie and I met this month and we reviewed the maintenance requirements for the building. We're going to get some proposals for the roofs, back door, back windows, and repair of the light.
Okay, any questions? By roof, she doesn't mean a new roof, the caps.
Just the cap, sorry, metal capping
The
around
corners,
the
the
edge.
corner caps that tip over the side to help the drainage go where, water go where it's supposed to. Okay, legislative committee, comedians, did I say that? Legislative committee did meet and worked on some items that are just about ready to come to the board. Something to do with our speed signs and subdivisions, where we've been approved by the state of Wisconsin to split the speed signs coming into the subdivisions on any entrance that they come into it, but we would not need to put any spur roads off of it, as long as that road came back out to one of the 2 or 3 main roads. In other words, we'd eliminate a lot of 25-mile-an-hour speed signs that we are having to maintain every year. We'll be able to recycle the posts and use them over, so there's literally hundreds of signs that we'll be able to recover once we get that ordinance form. And then we'll move on to the public safety.
Thank you, Ernie. Public safety
Okay.
met. We had a lengthy discussion with the fire chief. He shared with us EMS protocol and how the fire inspections are being handled with 4 or 5 individuals within the fire department, and the fire department's 2% dues are paying for that activity as it should, as 2% dues is intended to do. We did have a conversation about the casual fire department position and the hours that it was posted and recruited for are no longer being used that way, so those hours have been eliminated and there's no cost to the department or the town. It was a good trial and it didn't work out the way we had hoped. But the fire inspections are able to continue as they have their plan in place and that the officers have been discussing. We briefly talked about the aerial trucks, as we said above, and how we did give the fire chief direction to get some information together for us so that we, the board, can know what direction to go in the future. We talked with the police chief about right-of-way ordinance enforcement, people parking in the right-of-way ordinance enforcement, and that was brought back to the legislative committee, and as everybody knows, that there was nothing additional added into the ordinance on that. And there was, we were going to talk about a policy and procedure on how ordinance enforcement can be done, and that item was tabled, so we will bring that up at the next Public Safety Committee meeting.
Any questions for them? If not, Dan, Economic Development, you eat?
Yes, we did. We met,
I substituted because Kathy got, at last minute, she turned tail on me, no?
Yeah, no, that was another meeting.
and we discussed the possible relocation of the snowmobile trail off of what is it?
Grove and 76.
Yeah, Grove and 76. Was attended by many of the residents who live in that area, and the Kellner Knights Snowmobile Club who maintain the trail. I think we had very good discussion. We are just starting it now to look at possibilities. There are 3 or 4 different possible relocation solutions. We get a committee formed between some of the residents in that area and some of the Kellner Knights, along with the Economic Development Committee.
I was gonna say, what, you appoint me to something?
Yeah, that's what you get for not showing up. And then we're going to take a look at those alternatives, have another meeting, and see what, where we want to go with that.
Did you set a date yet?
No. We'll let you know when we do.
Don't pick a 4th Monday again, or I won't be there.
Any questions for Dan? Personnel Committee, Kathy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Personnel Committee met. We reviewed the applications that came in for the Public Works crew position. There were many, internal and external. And as the board had discussed, we posted both at the same time in case there were no qualified applicants internally. But as it turns out, there were a good handful of qualified applications and that came in from internal. So we're in the process of interviewing for that position.
Any questions? If not, we'll move to reports from individual town board members. Bill, you got anything tonight?
No, I don't.
Dan? No. Patty?
No, thank you.
Kathy?
Nothing.
Arnie has nothing. Motion establish next agenda. Bill, I assume you want us to put that on there?
Yes,
Discuss
please.
putting out for bids for garbage service for 2015.
That, and can we consider that the board authorized the May 17th, choose to reuse date? Or does
Sure.
that have to go on?
No,
I don't think that needs to be.
I don't think we need to approve it.
Yeah.
So I do have one question. When
Sure.
is the annual meeting?
Third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday in
April.
April.
At 7. That one's a 7 o'clock.
Okay. Anything else for the next agenda, board members want? Mr. Head?
Thanks, Marnie. Just, process, what you asked the audience for comments in this first, or the third agenda item up here. Is it your intent to allow comments while the agenda is in progress?
No.
Okay.
Typically, that's a town
When-
board meeting.
When you asked for any questions, and I was watching, you were just looking at the board for the most part, yeah?
If I am looking, or a board member is looking for clarification, and we happen to have a resident out there that has the knowledge to the answer that we might be looking for, yes, then it could come in. Typically, that's the way the county board runs theirs. The city runs theirs a little different, where you need to be identified by, whatever they call themselves, on council members before anybody can speak. I prefer to try this, talk in front of the meeting on any agenda items that you see, and then if we need clarification, the board member can ask somebody. Sir?
Would you consider putting a follow-up at the end to allow us final comments, maybe?
As long as you don't have any guns.
But, and I feel a little awkward here, but in regard to my first question there, you know, when I said, it appears to me now at least that it would have behooved us to establish a budget that would have used up whatever levy we were allowed. I didn't hear, I would like to poll the board to see what their perception is. I don't know whether it's a good idea or a bad idea.
Yeah, we had 3-2 not to use it, so,
Right,
and
when,
that's what it is.
Mr. Chairman? And I remember when those discussions were taking place, that was one of the questions. I had recommended that we should take advantage of what tax levy we could. But the question from the audience then was, what are you gonna do with that extra 60,000? And Arnie said, we don't know, because we didn't know that you would want us to raise the taxes and take advantage of that opportunity. If, in hindsight, if we would have said, well, we know that our grader's given us trouble, we know that our truck's given us trouble, we will collect that 60,000 and we will put it in a contingency specific for that purpose, it might have changed things. But we didn't have that answer, and I think that's why the 60,000 just was passed on.
All right.
If I may, we do that on the county too. We do not go to the max on the county.
Okay.
I mean, it's just the way we do it. We don't take money we don't need. And that's the county philosophy, and that's my philosophy. When Dreyfus got in office, he spent $300 to give everybody $300 back, just about.
Well, he had a red vest on, so I guess that's easier. People thought of him as Santa Claus, right? So anyway, motion to adjourn is in order.
I'll make one.
Dan and Patty, thank you very much. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Have an aye, any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate you coming.